Testing 1, 2, 3.
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call the meeting to order. If I can, roll call.
Mr. Hikes,
Present.
Ms. Weiss. Here. Ms. Hubbard,
Present.
Ms. Fowl,
Here.
Ms. Jones,
Here.
Mr. Davis,
Here.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
We have a quorum.
Can we still please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Early today, the second Verizon lab in St. Louis Public Schools opened, with representatives from the district joining Verizon for a ribbon-cutting ceremony at Yeatman Liddell Middle School. This lab will provide students and teachers with access to cutting-edge technology, including virtual reality, 3D printing, and artificial intelligence. Thank you to our partners at Verizon and to the students and staff at Yeatman for making this initiative possible. It's Principal Chris Krimble, and it's Miss Paris. Miss Paris Bateman is not here. Principal
Dr. Crumble's outside.
Krimble, can you come up, please? And Network Superintendent, Dr. Someone I know she's trying to fall behind, but yes, come on up, Miss Aaron. Yes. Oftentimes people aren't recognized when they should be. We had the opportunity to go see the outstanding work that's being done at Yeatman Middle School. What we saw, or what I saw, I can't speak for everyone, but what I did see was remarkable. To see what the students were able to do, the entrepreneurship that's being brought to that site, and to see the growth that I'm seeing, especially when I had the opportunity to ask the young lady, like, what did you see, or what did you think, what was coming and what was happening? And she was like, I was so excited. I'm learning a lot. She was like, I actually got to dissect a frog. And that was huge. I asked her what grade she was in. She said she was in the 8th grade. And I asked her, what does she want to do? And she literally said, oh, I'm going to high school. And after high school, I'm going to college. But I want to be in culinary school. I mean, she had her whole life planned out, but you could tell she was pleased at where she was. And she was excited for what Verizon was bringing and what Miss Paris and what you all was offering. So I want to make sure you all know we see you. We appreciate the hard work that's being done at Yeatman. And you guys have really gone above and beyond. And that is an outstanding lab that we've seen. Mr. Watson, I see you always standing in the back. But I know your team also had a huge part in putting that together, but that lab was remarkable. Dr. Scarlett and Board Member Hubbard, is there anything you wanted to add? Because I know you all was present in that space as well.
I'm just so glad it's at Yeatman. Ms. Paris talked so much about equity, and having something that's so spectacular at a school that has often been unfairly not thought of well is just really encouraging to me. It's encouraging to see that this is the direction the district is going. So, like we all said, thanks to Verizon, but especially thanks to you all for making it happen.
And I'll just share that our children are so completely worthy of having beautiful, state-of-the-art spaces for their learning and having that experience of seeing what the Verizon partnership has brought to Yeatman heartens me, makes me think about how we use our bond issue resources just to ensure that we have beautiful learning spaces for our students. So congratulations to the team, and thank you so much for your hard work.
Dr. Scarlett.
Good evening, everyone. Tonight, the spirit of excellence shines on students from across the district who participated in the 14th annual Safety Art Contest. This year's theme was Students for Peace, Alternatives to Violence. Our first place winners are as follows. For elementary, we have Ruby Walker from Betty Wheeler. For middle school, we have Sam Dold from Bush Middle School. And for high school, we have Ronald Comack from Central Visual and Performing Arts. Are those students here? Can those students and their parents, please, or families, please stand? If their school leaders are here also, please stand as well.
Can they come up for photos, please?
Please come on up.
Now you hear me. Okay, great. Good evening. My name is John Grapperhaus. I'm the Visual Art Coordinator for St. Louis Public Schools. And I'm really honored to support these students and to work alongside the art teachers across our district. Yes, this is, as Dr. Scarlett said, this is the 14th year of the safety contest. Every year we have a different theme. And after some of the hard experiences a lot of us had indirectly or directly last year, a lot of people were asking me, how can we give the students an opportunity to process this, and maybe art is a good way to do that. And we gave that a lot of thought. How do we do that in a way that's healthy and meaningful, doesn't maybe trigger the students? So we really wanted them to focus on positive things. So that's why the theme is Students for Peace, Alternatives to Violence. I visited classrooms all across the district and just got to see students brainstorming and coming up with just these profound, insightful ways to focus on things that are alternatives to violence. And we actually have, so we just, I think, saw the first place winners, but we have for elementary, middle, and high school, we have first through fourth place. And all the entries are on display out here at 801. They're also displayed online. The winners were selected by a panel of judges here from St. Louis Public Schools Curriculum Department and Risk Management Compliance Departments. Each student receives a $50 cash card furnished by generous donations to the St. Louis Public Schools Foundation. And we also have students receiving honorable mention certificates I appreciate the principals who came out in support of those students tonight, the art teachers who came out, and the families, and most of all, these students. So I'll continue recognizing the rest of the students that we're recognizing, and then we'll step outside here afterward, and we're going to take photographs outside with the artwork. Okay, so yes, in elementary, so first grade at Betty Wheeler was Ruby Walker. So if Ruby, would you go ahead and stand up again? Second place from Betty Wheeler is Avery Zhao. Third place from Oak Hill is Leslie Landaverde Gomez. Fourth place from Warner is Daisy Crawford Blair. I believe she was not able to join us tonight. And then for first place from Bush Middle is Sam Dold. Another recognition for Yateman tonight. Second place from Yateman is Donnie Taylor. From Long Middle is Ramesh Elkinser. And from Carnahan, Sanaya Foster. And lastly, for high school, first place from Central VPA is Ronald Komek. Second place from collegiate is Zenga Strott. Third place from McKinley is Amania Henderson. And fourth place from collegiate is Jasper Hutchings. Congratulations to you students. Thank you for your bravery, your honesty, and sharing that with the world through your artwork. Thank you to the school board and to Dr. Scarlett.
Thank you so much.
So we're all gonna, the families and the teachers and the art students, we're just gonna go out this door here and take some photographs. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Rappenhouse. So art does truly heal, so thank you so much for your work. Next in our spotlight, we have the Hope for Homelessness recap. The Students in Transition Office, led by Dr. Deidre Thompson-Murray, our office successfully hosted the inaugural Hope for the Homeless event on November 2nd at the SLPS Central Office. This impactful gathering saw the participation of over 40 SLPS employees and their families, actively engaging in crafting caring wellness kits. They also took part in a neighborhood walk to distribute these kits along with food and demonstrated their commitment to sleeping outdoors in challenging weather conditions. The collective effort resulted in the assembly of more than 1,000 care kits. These kits are now being distributed at local shelters, including Gateway 180, the St. Louis Crisis Nursery, and Women's Safe House, providing essential support for those in need within our community. Finally, here are some upcoming calendar updates. All district schools and offices will be closed from Monday, November 20th through Friday, November 24th in observance of the Thanksgiving holiday. Please take this time to be with your loved ones and friends and recharge as we approach the end of the first semester.
I want to take a moment to thank everyone who joined Dr. Scarlett's first 100 days online social. The turnout for this virtual presentation was exceptional, with 500 plus individuals RSVPing to participate. At its height, the event garnered over 2,000 unique viewers, all eager to hear Dr. Scarlett's reflection on her initial 100 days as superintendent and gain insight into her vision for the future of SLPS. It's been 100 days, Dr. Scott. With that, we're going to go into approval of minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve minutes from May 24th, 2023, June 13th, 2023, June 27th, 2023, July 11th, 2023, August 8th, 2023, September 12th, 2023, and October 10th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Henry?
I would like to actually, can you hear me? This is Natalie.
Go ahead, Natalie.
I would like to take the October minutes separately, please. Would you mind friendly amendment, Matt?
I will accept a friendly amendment to remove the October minutes from my motion.
Any other discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes.
Accept.
Ms. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard.
Yes.
Ms. Bow.
Yes.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
I'll make a motion to approve the October 10th, 2023 minutes.
Is there a second?
I second.
Is there a discussion? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes.
Yeah, just one comment. Because of the actual motion to adjourn being misspoken and the live feed being cut, I'm marked as absent for the rest of the meeting. When the motion had it been stated correctly and the live feed kept going, I would have stayed there. So I don't know if there's any way to reflect that in the minutes, but I just wanted to make that comment.
It's been noted. Any other discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes.
Yes.
Ms. Weiss.
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard.
Yes.
Ms. Bow.
No.
Ms. Jones.
Yes.
Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Dr. Scarlett?
Next, we'll have a reading update. I just want to highlight our work. Our board did hard work on August 22nd during our work session where our board approved 4 student outcomes, success areas, an area within 3rd grade reading and proficiency, 3rd grade mathematics and proficiency, around college and career readiness, and also student climate and wellness. And then we followed up on October 24th with a portfolio of measures for each one of those areas. The team has been working really hard. I want to recognize the work of Chief Cheryl Van Oy, our Chief of Information and Accountability, Dr. Marion Smith Jr., our Chief Academic Officer, who will be joining us right here at the podium, and also Dr. Millicent Bourchade, our Chief of Schools. And so they will be the team who shares this reading update. Please welcome up to the podium.
All right, thank you for that, Dr. Scarlett. So good evening, Board President Cousins, Vice President Davis, Board Directors, and our SLPS staff, scholars, and families. Again, I am Dr. Marion Smith Jr., Chief Academic Officer, and I'll be joined by our Chief of Schools, Dr. Millicent Bourchade. And so, as Dr. Scarlett mentioned, last time we met, we were here, we talked a little bit about the flagship goals and those interim measures for the 4 board student outcome priorities. And so today, along with Dr. Bourchade, we'll share a quick update on one of these goals, and it's around reading. And so the agenda for our time today will be in 4 parts. First, you'll hear an update on 2 student support structures in place. So one is our reading teachers, our reading intervention teachers. The second is our individualized reading success plans. Next, you'll hear an update on 1 leadership development support in place. That's our training for school leaders around STAR. Afterwards, you get a glimpse into one of our classrooms as we spotlight learning at Jefferson Elementary. And then the presentation will end by sharing just a look ahead as to what's coming down the pipeline. And so first, just wanted to bring our attention to our student support. So this year is actually year 3 that we're using our state allocated funding. So that's approximately $2.4 million for our reading intervention teachers at our Title I elementary schools. And as a reminder, our reading intervention teachers work in 27 of our 40 Title I elementary schools, but their focus is to develop, they write, they implement our individualized reading success plans for those qualifying students in grades 3 through 5. This year, we're expanding that to grades K through 5 or K through 2 so that we have individualized reading success plans across K-5. Additionally, in our state-identified comprehensive support elementary and middle schools, we have supplemental ELA teachers that provide reading intervention to our students. So this year we have 11 comprehensive support elementary schools and 4 comprehensive support middle schools. And so with that, I'll have an opportunity to turn it over to moving away from our individual teacher supports and classroom supports to our school leadership supports. And so with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Borsche.
Good evening, President Cousins, members of the board, Dr. Scarlett, and to our community here. I would like to also add that we will hear from Principal Dr. Humphreys from Peabody Elementary School, and then we're going to hear from Ms. Grant and Theo, who are from Gateway Elementary School. Talking about leadership development, so being chief of schools, I've had an opportunity to work with all of our principals. And in working with all of our principals, we've had 3 principal leadership meetings. This most recent meeting we heard from Renaissance, who gave us some information. I'm going to call up Dr. Humphrey so she can share what her takeaways were regarding that.
Good evening, everyone. So as Dr. Borsche shared, I'm going to share some of my takeaways as a school leader from the Star Renaissance training. During that training, we heard from the Star Renaissance representatives and learned about some of the different reporting tools within the Star Renaissance platform and how those tools are aligned to our state standards and some recommendations for goal setting with our students. And so the takeaway for us at Peabody, what we did with our teachers, we had a PLC meeting and we shared these reports and the data with our teachers. Our teachers reviewed the reports and the benchmarks and how these benchmarks are used to determine if our students are on track for state testing. Our teachers also then reviewed the recommended goal projections to ensure that students are on track to meet their expected growth by our next assessment, and that they're meeting their growth rates throughout the entire school year. Our teachers also reviewed the reports that indicate the specific standards and skills that students should be practicing in order to achieve their goals. Following that, we then looked at the instructional resources that are available within STAR and the resources that we have as a component of STAR, such as Freckle and Nearpod, and how teachers can use those tools to make sure that we're individualizing support for individual students and groups of students who have similar needs. And then finally, we talked about how our teachers will then use these reports and these resources to have meaningful and intentional goal-setting conversations with their students and making sure that students are a part of that work and that students are owning their own learning, but that they're also setting goals based on realistic data and measures to make sure that our students are able to achieve the expected rate of growth by the end of the school year. And so teachers and students will then use that information, and our students will have opportunities to practice within Freckle and Nearpod on specific standards and skills that they need to work on an individual level. And so we plan to continue this cycle throughout the school year, progress monitoring our students, and then setting new goals for them, incremental goals towards their end of the year goal to make sure that all of our students are able to achieve reading success. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Humphreys. So at this time, I would like for us to watch the goal setting once, once Ms. Grant comes and give us some context for goal setting. It's always good to see it when you have your PD and you can chase it all the way back into the classroom. So I'm going to call up Ms. I'm going to call up Ms. Grant, who is an SLP graduate and also a 3rd grade student at Gateway. And then we'll have Theo give us some information as well. Good evening, Madam President, Dr. Scarlett, members of the board, colleagues, families. I appreciate the opportunity to speak before you today. Here with me, I have one of my students. My name is Mrs. Grant. I'm a third grade teacher at Gateway Elementary. My principal is Miss Lindsay. She's here with us this evening. I would like to recognize her as well. Thank you for having us. This is my student. His name is Theo. In a moment, you'll see a video where Theo and I sit down to discuss at a small group table his STAR reading scores along with his goal and his goal for his next progress monitoring test. So I want to tell you that Theo came to me as a third grader reading on the fourth grade level. Since being in our classroom this year, Theo has grown 1 year and 3 months from August until now. I cannot take credit for all of that. His home support is amazing. His mother is here as well. I'd like to recognize her. But in our classroom, in my classroom, all of the students know their scores. They all know what their goals are, and we do goal setting every time we have a progress monitoring. I shared with Dr. Borshade that we're not ashamed of where we are. We're always celebrating as long as we have increase. So we celebrate who we are and where we are, and honestly, it's just been amazing and tremendous. So thank you, Dr. Borshade, for inviting us, and thank you, Dr. Scarlett, for seeing us. Did you all have any questions for Theo?
I have a question for Theo. What's your favorite book?
The Hero 2 Doors Down.
Oh, excellent.
The Hero 2 Doors Down.
And why do you like it?
I like this storyline. It's a long book. It has a lot of chapters, and I just really like it.
Thanks.
Thank you. Let's go back to our table. Thank you. Now, as you watch the video, you're going to see that Theo set a goal of 100 points. From where he is expected to grow 100 points. That is a very aggressive goal. However, Theo has been progress monitoring, and in his progress monitoring, he has already grown 45 points of that 100 points. So when we set goals, then we work hard to achieve them. And Theo is on his way. I'll let you watch the video.
So Theo, we're going to do your goal setting for your upcoming STAR test. What was your score for the month of October?
1014.
1014. Go ahead and write it right here. My score for the month of October. Write the word October. October. And your October score was, what was your number?
1014.
1014, write it there. Now you're getting ready to take a progress monitoring test, which means we're going to determine whether or not your reading has increased or decreased. What do you think your reading has done?
Increased.
Very good. If you've set a goal for yourself, if you were to set a goal for yourself based on your score of 1014, what kind of goal would you set? How much more would you like your score to increase? By how many points?
At least 100 points.
100 points. So what I would like for you to do is put your current score, 1014, there. And if you want your score to increase by 100 points, we have to add 100 there. 100. And add the two together in order to get a new score. What would you like your new score to be?
1114.
All right, go ahead and write that right here. That's a very good goal, Theo. 1,114 points. That will put you right in the range of where SLPS says that you should be. So what are some things that Mrs. Grant can do to help you reach your goal?
You can help me sound out words, and you can also help me You can also help me explain things in a way I would understand.
I think that's really good. Go ahead and write those ideas there. And I think that's a wonderful goal for you to have. I really believe that you can achieve that, and I can't wait until you take your test to see how well that you do. Good job, Theo.
Go Theo.
Dr. Borche, can I ask Mom a question?
Absolutely. Mom?
First, Mom, I want to thank you. What is your take on this? How do you feel Theo is at home, and are you getting the support that you need in regards to Theo when it comes to reading? And do you understand how the STAR testing process works, and do you support it?
I do understand how it works, and that's in large part because his teacher, Ms. Grant, and really just all of the faculty at Gateway, they're very good at explaining to parents what they're testing for, what are the signs of progress and how we can help them at home. So it's great to have some guidance on, okay, what I need him to focus on. I know Theo is already advanced, and so it's great to have tips on, okay, if you want him to progress even further, try this, get him these kinds of books, ask him these kinds of questions. So, yeah.
Thank you.
What we are going to do now is make sure that our AICs receive training as well as our classroom teachers in terms of reading the data and making sure that they understand. Those are some of our next steps. So Renaissance will be returning to us on December 5th to make sure that training happens. And then again, December 19th. And then we have our Spotlight on Learning at Jefferson Elementary School. So at Jefferson Elementary School, we had an opportunity to visit the classroom. And in visiting the classroom, some of the things that we saw were the students as leaders in the classroom. Can we see the video?
Fish. G go go. H her hat. H her hat. I eat igloo. I eat igloo. J jar. K kangaroo. K kangaroo. L lion. L mouse. N nut. O octopus. P pig. Q queen. R rabbit. S sun.
Wait, what's that sound? All right, try it again. T
Turtle. U umbrella. V vest. W walrus. X X-ray. Y yo-yo. Z zebra. Fish.
Thank you so much. It is always excellent to see that our students can lead us in learning as they are making meaning from everything that is happening in the classroom. Some of the things that we're going to be doing, we're looking ahead, we will have classroom libraries. So we're working together cross-departmentally to plan adequate and the expansion of classroom libraries across the district. We're also working to make sure that we have high-dosage tutoring, where we will have one-on-one tutoring in very small groups 3 times a week, and more information on that will be coming. We will have some schools that we start with, and those schools will be named later.
Oh, come back, Dr. Burshay. The slide before, I just want to make sure we get full content. The young lady, she was in the first grade, correct?
She was in the first grade, yes, leading her peers.
She was leading her peers with the little teacher point stick. I
Pointer, yeah.
I thought that was the cutest thing. So we had the opportunity to actually see that live and in color. Oftentimes, we're told that our kids can't read. For me, I wanted to kind of see for myself and get a full understanding, like what's going on within our schools. Is the principal for Jefferson School here? I didn't know if she was here or not. She's not here. I really had the opportunity to see that for myself. That video really didn't speak of what we were able to see. These were students that were really raising their hands, wanting to get up and have the opportunity to teach that session. And the teacher was literally standing back doing the teaching, but she gave the kids the opportunity to do it. And that was the most refreshing thing that I ever really saw in a long time, like what our children were actually doing. And one of the students actually came in late. She was eating, like she had her breakfast, but she was late, and she was so upset
She didn't get a chance.
that she didn't get a chance to participate. But to see that young kid, the first thing I got was, this is the future. This is our teacher in the making. So I want to thank the principal and that teacher. I wish the teacher and the principal was here to really commend them on the hard work that they've actually been doing and the excellent things that I was able to see that was going on at Jefferson School. Did anyone have questions for Dr. Borshay?
I do. Can you explain the spacing of STAR test and progress monitoring, which is just another test? Can you sort of explain how that works?
Okay, I'm going to repeat what I think I heard you say. You want me to explain the STAR test and...
Not the timing.
Oh,
I understand the STAR test.
Got it. So there should be at least 12 weeks between the initial test and progress monitoring. And so that gives the teacher enough time to look at the assessment, understand the learning paths, and then teach to the learning paths and the standards that have been identified that the students need more assistance on, and then progress monitor in terms of whether or not they have mastered that or grown from point A to point B.
So is progress monitoring another STAR test, or is it like a...
It is administered through STAR.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Burchett. I'm really interested in this high dosage tutoring for students that you talked about. Think that's very needed and excited about that. Who will be providing that one-on-one tutoring? Are we going to utilize volunteers, or are we utilizing folks already within the school?
It will be a conglomerate. We are still working through that right now. And then once we have solidified all of that, I'll share that information. But I just wanted to let you know that that is coming.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions for Dr. Borshay or Dr. Smith? Or the teachers?
I just want to say thank you so much to our teachers, our principals, our network superintendent, and the academic excellence team. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll have a presentation of the CPN, I believe it's Community Partnership Network. Mr. Jay Hartman.
Good evening, Board. Dr. Scarlett, thank you for having us. We appreciate the time to be here. Our agenda for tonight is to share updates about the CPN MOU, as well as share about the current CPN model, as well as a little bit of the results. What led us to this moment to share about the MOU is a little timeline of the CPN board activities. You can kind of zero in on the bottom third where it starts with June 2022. That is when the old CPN board voted to change their bylaws and change how the CPN board is constructed. That was based on feedback that they received from the Board of Education, from you folks, and so we are thankful for that. And then in July of 2022, the board here voted to approve the 2-year MOU with the CPN board. I put that in quotes because I think we're going to need to discuss what that really meant later. So I've got some questions for you as well, hopefully to reflect on. Starting in April of 2023, the new CPN board began meeting bi-weekly to work on a new MOU, and they met consistently between April and July, and then that includes 2 members of the SLPS board, the president of Local 420 AFT, teachers from the network schools, as well as a parent from the network school. And then in November, just last week, this CPN board approved a new MOU to be reviewed by this board, as well as adding a director of community education to the CPN staffing model. So that's kind of how we got here. I believe you guys have a copy of the new MOU, but this is just an overview of it. So I will read this briefly and then highlight one element of it at the very end. The CPN network is an innovative initiative of the St. Louis Public School District that operates with a unique set of conditions that put critical education decisions in the hands of teachers and school leaders. Each school within CPN is empowered through a governance model that enables autonomy and flexibility around staffing, budget, curriculum, and assessment, professional development, and schedules for students and staff. CPN schools utilize collective decision-making to manage operations, and expected results include higher levels of student engagement, academic performance that exceed district averages. This agreement provides the expectations and obligations of each party. For details surrounding the operations of the CPN, please reference CPN's policies and procedures manual. So, grateful to the work of the CPN board for developing this new MOU. It has been the hope from the beginning that the new MOU would be more aligned to the school board's expectations and hopes for the partnership. That has been the goal all along. And I want to highlight that the policies and procedures manual is based off of the work that comes from the longstanding pilot schools agreement. This is something that was brought from President Ray Cummings of the Teachers Union, and in his role on the CPN board was supportive of this, and so we based the entire policies and procedures handbook based off of the pilot schools manual, off of his recommendation. And we want to acknowledge some of the work that was done by especially Miss Erica Ellis, who is a kindergarten and teacher at Merrimack Elementary. She put in countless hours to be able to get this into a usable format, and we hope that the new MOU, which is only 3 pages long, is easily digestible and is not filled up with a bunch of legalese that we know the previous MOU was rightfully criticized for. Okay, so the working vision of the new CPN board is highlighted here. You can see a few revisions from the old one. It's less of an emphasis on the new governance model based on feedback and more of a focus on removing barriers to learning while still zeroing in on empowering site-based decision-making and that collective decision-making model. So that is really the goal. This has been kind of the purpose and the mission statement of CPN, and want to reiterate that here, that it is focused on neighborhood schools, providing resources where they're needed. It is really focused on empowering teachers and school teams, and hopefully incubating scalable solutions. It's worth noting that there's nothing in there about trying to privatize schools or to turn schools into something that they are not. We are really, truly just about this and have tried to operate in good faith to focus on just this. Understand that there have been some concerns, and we are trying to address those concerns. with every step. So in order to meet that mission, this was the old staffing model of CPN from 2020 through 2023. There was an executive director, that's the role that I play, and I have tried to build good, positive relationships with everyone at the central office as a liaison in supporting the site-based decisions. We've had staff members that are focused on analyzing and supporting schools with data and development in curriculum and instruction. And so the work has always been focused on trying to improve outcomes at schools. And this is done through grant-funded positions in partnership with the district. So these are not district staff members, but they are just there supporting schools, in this case Ashland and Merrimack, with that extra layer of support. These are schools that often are understaffed, and so having additional partners, it can be very helpful. This is the most recent addition, is based on feedback. It's a little small, I apologize, but it is just to add a director of community education, so that way we can do more community coordinated support. Again, based on feedback from the school board, that has been the hope, and we want to be able to make that a reality. There's a few accomplishments worth noting. In the last couple years, schools were early adopters of the culturally and historically responsive teaching practices. That's Dr. Goldie Muhammad's Hill model. They're very proud of that. We've seen significant MPI growth from 2019 to 2022. I'll detail that in a couple slides. And it's also just really unique to have teachers at the schools that also serve on the board. I think that's worth noting. Okay, so a little bit about outcomes. This is MAP Performance Index. This is not single point in time proficiency or advanced numbers. This is not STAR data. This is MAP data from 2019 to 2022. And I'm specifically pulling out the MAP Performance Index because that gives you a little bit of an average of how the entire school is doing in each grade level and in each content area. So you'll see that in 2019, among the 44 elementary schools in SLPS at the time, Ashland and Merrimack were ranked in the bottom 10 of those 44 schools. And then in 2022, while the actual index score changed significantly because the test was different, I think it's most fair to compare apples to apples by comparing the schools to their peer group, which is 40 elementary schools by 2022. And you see there's a pretty significant increase in their rank. And so that shows that while the emphasis of CPN has not just been results, that the process of empowering teachers and doing site-based decision making certainly hasn't hurt the outcomes for students. And I think it's worth noting that even a couple of the schools that were highlighted earlier, Jefferson and Peabody, are also among the schools that grew the most. And so by no means is anyone claiming that CPN was the only schools that were growing in this time. Credit goes to those schools as well as the schools that were highlighted earlier. And I think that's the staff and students at the schools are very proud of that, and they should be. A couple other notable CPN initiatives. You hear a lot about science of reading right now, and back in 2020, CPN schools elected to adopt a reading curriculum that was based off of the science of reading and participated in letters training virtually during the pandemic. So they've been doing that for years, and we believe that that has had a big impact on student learning. Place-based learning is something that both schools have really selected to emphasize, and doing a lot of site-based professional development has been really unique. It's also an opportunity for teachers to earn additional money, grant-funded stipends. I also want to take a minute to clarify. I know that there have been a good deal of questions about the types of funding that CPN has received or participated with. CPN hasn't received dollars or funding from the district. This chart is really just supposed to show that at at a neighborhood school like Ashland, CPN additional funds and staffing and stipends really just supplement the district funds. They don't replace it. They do not intermingle. It is just additional support for a neighborhood school. So that kind of gives you an idea of what that ratio of grant-funded positions and support versus district-funded is. And then I also want to be very clear that CPN has never taken money or received services from the Opportunity Trust. I know that that was a point of contention just at the special board meeting a couple weeks ago as they received a major federal CSP grant. I did as much as I could to put it in the record that I disagreed with the assertion of that CSP application, and that CPN has never interacted formally in that way. There was, of course, a former OT staff member who was on the old CPN board, but that is one of the reasons why the board voted to change their structure. So, couple questions for the board, and could go back to any other questions too. I know that external funding does pose challenges and roadblocks. If I were a board member, I would have questions and concerns about it. So I think that's totally fair game. If we don't want to continue the partnership, is there a plan to support neighborhood schools in a way that is similar to this? And then I guess ultimately the question is from the board, if the purpose of the extension in July of 2022 was not as stated, what is the intention? So those are questions that I would love to hear from you, or if there's any other questions from anything else that I presented. So.
Is there any questions? Board Member Hubbard.
So, for the public's disclosure, my child, and all of my children, I only have one kid left in elementary school, go to a CPN school. What have you seen the teacher's response to having a leadership role? How has that been different compared to other schools that you may have been in?
I think that some of the teachers have responded really well to it. I think that it's not a perfect model for everyone. There are some that wouldn't, haven't necessarily taken to it. I think that when you give more decision and making authority to people who are closest to the kids, that it's always a good thing. And that if you give them the space to, it doesn't mean that everyone's always going to make the right decision, that it's going to be the perfect decision. I just think that having a structure where that is encouraged is a good thing. So it's gone great for some. I think that it's still challenging. It's still schools and they're still challenging places to work, but I think it's gone great for some. So, yeah.
Why has it taken so long to get the MOU? I know that as a parent, I've tried to stay engaged with the process and show up whenever you have a public meeting. And I know that from my relationships with the teachers at our school, it's been very challenging not to know what's going to happen. It's upsetting to me as a parent. My kid doesn't care, but what was going on?
Yeah, I think that the CPN board worked really hard to get it squared away, but because there are some understandable differences of opinion on what the best way to support and develop that MOU, I think that it hit some roadblocks. I think that I'm appreciative of the fact that we're at this point and that we have an opportunity to share it and get feedback from the school board, and I hope that we do. But I know that it's been a little bit challenging to get to this point.
Sorry, one more thing. This is a comment, but when I was having my parent-teacher conference with my third grader, her teacher said that Merrimack was the first place where she felt that classroom visits and the sort of, supervision type things, where she didn't feel nervous because she knew that they were there to help her improve as a teacher and not get dinged for things you didn't do right. And I would hope that that would be true everywhere in the district. But for teachers to have that sort of mentality that these people are here to help me, not get me in trouble, I think that's really valuable, and I'm thankful for it.
Thanks.
So I'll just try to address from my perspective your questions for the Board of Education, since I was president of the board back then and was involved in a lot of the discussions with Dr. Adams. I don't really think these are questions for the Board of Education. I think primarily they're the questions for the superintendent.
Okay.
Back in when it was May 2022, the board voted to discontinue the CPN. It was only out of deference to Dr. Adams that we voted on the July item, and even though it was to approve an MOU, there was no MOU in existence. The thought was that the new board had to be constituted, and then that MOU would come back forward. But it was my expectation that Dr. Adams was going to make a recommendation, and I guess that was never forthcoming. So just from my perspective, I guess these are really questions for Dr. Scarlett and her team to answer. So I don't know if anybody else has thought about that, but that is just my takeaway.
That's helpful. Thank you.
I think the challenge is we still don't have a MOU. There's no MOU on this consent agenda.
I don't believe it's on the consent agenda. I think it was just shared ahead of time.
No, there's no MOU. If we were being presented with this model, and you said that the CPN board approved the MOU to be presented, and per what Vice President Davis is saying, June of 2022, the superintendent had approved for a MOU to be drafted. We're now in November of 2023, and there is still no MOU. And I think Board Member Hubbard's question was, what's taking so long for an MOU? So what's being presented to us is this is the model, this is what's being worked on, and these are the things that has been going on, but there is still no MOU, correct?
There is an approved MOU from the CPN board now at this point as of the meeting last week.
But it still has yet to come before this board.
It has been shared electronically with this board from my understanding. If that's not the case, I apologize. I can share that immediately before this meeting is even closed.
But that's not how, I don't think that's how it works. I think we have to have a MOU because we need something to look at, to even like your presentation you're presenting to us, but we need to have something that we should have been looking at June of 2023 to even decide like which direction we're going in, correct? I'm just trying to make sure
yes.
I understand how the process goes. So I'm just trying, because full transparency, I'm on the CPN board. So I'm trying to make sure I understand that if we're trying to really push this along, and if this is really trying to benefit and be impactful for these families of both of the schools, then we should make this of the urgency that it should be, correct?
I agree.
And if you have Board Member Hubbard who's saying the impact that it's having, for her children, the school that it is, and the things that she's saying that it's doing for the teachers at the parent-teachers conference, this should be top priority, is what I'm saying, correct? If we're being told children can't read, we want to improve reading skills, we want to do all of these things, and these are the improvement and resources that these schools are being offered, then we should be expediting these level of services, correct?
I agree with you.
So
yes.
If it's being brought to us and we now have a new superintendent and she's trying to move the needle in improving the resources and services, not just for 2 schools, but for all of our schools. This should have been a top priority, is all I'm saying. And we're now in November 2023, and we still don't have an MOU. We have a presentation. Now I'm putting on a different hat. Now I'm putting on the board president hat. Okay? I'm putting on the board president hat, and I'm putting on a hat at the fact that you stated that the Opportunity Trust, you didn't get any money, and you probably didn't get any money. But we know that Opportunity Trust put a grant in, and they got $35 million. And per that grant, they wrote up that they were working in partnership with St. Louis Public Schools and the CPN. They didn't say that they gave money. They said that they were working in partnership with the CPN model of St. Louis Public Schools that we had no knowledge of. They got $35 million based on that. Are you understanding where I'm coming from? It's challenging for us.
Very much so, which is why I went very much, like, I'm trying to put it into the record that I disagree with their assertion of what they wrote into the application and that there was no cooperation. There was a staff member who was appointed to the old CPN board at that time by the mayor, which is one of the criticisms of the old CPN board, was that a mayoral appointee did not align with the wishes of the St. Louis School Board. And so that is one of the reasons why we tried to shift the bylaws of the CPN board, was to eliminate that concern. And so, yes, there was that overlap, but there hasn't been that overlap for now 18 months, almost 18 months.
I'm hearing what you're saying, Jay, and what you're saying may be true, but they received $35 million.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? On top of them receiving $35 million, we still don't have a MOU, something we should have gotten June 2023. We're now November 2023. I don't know about you, but this is urgent to me, okay? That's all I'm saying. I get your questions, but the question that I've been having is, where are we? And why are we still waiting? And even today, we still don't have the MOU. That's all I have. Any other questions? Board member Sadie.
Oh, yes, thank you. Thank you, Jay, for presenting. I think this is a great opportunity for us as a board to have this discussion. I think it was a really needed discussion. So thank you for being here tonight and presenting this. I am also on the CPN board and came onto the MOU committee a little bit later than other folks who were on that committee. But I can say that there was a lot of hard work that was put into the creation of the draft MOU that we currently have right now. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of hours, a lot of back and forth, due to the fact that this is very serious, right? And we want to take it seriously, and it is important, as President Cousins mentioned, there is urgency around it. But the folks on that committee, I do believe, wanted to ensure that they took the time to properly craft an MOU. And we have had some challenges as a CPN board. I'm a new member, but just in my short amount of time on the CPN board, it has been a little bit challenging in terms of meeting and moving forward. And so I'm glad we're at this place where now we can, I hope, really move forward, and we have this MOU that was sent out, I do believe, electronically, as you mentioned, so that we can review that and hopefully get it on the agenda. We could do it for December, our December meeting, have it on the consent agenda for us, the Board of Education, to vote on this MOU. So that the CPN, if we're saying that yes, we want the CPN to be given the support it needs to truly thrive, and I think we do need to, yes, have it on the consent agenda and vote as a board so that we can move forward. Because I do think there is great potential. I understand the history and the context and the skepticism that was associated with the CPN, but I do believe that there is great potential with the CPN. And so I just wanted to reiterate that a lot of hours and hard work has been put into the MOU, and I think that is, it took a while to really work out some kinks and get it to the place that it is now. So I look forward to hearing from my colleagues about their thoughts of the MOU and how we can get that draft hopefully finalized and vote on it hopefully in December. That's all I say about that, but I do want to pose one question. And in my thinking about the CPN and the recent addition of the community education piece, really holding this idea of, what does a community school look like? What is the community school model? Implementing the community school model, not only in our CPN schools, but across the district. I think there's great potential to do that. Could you let us know, Jay, what your thoughts are about incorporating or implementing the community school model piece into the CPN, and how then we could potentially build upon that as a district once we sort of see how that works in two of our schools, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. I think the hope is that there are already multiple great versions of community school models in SLPS. The hope would just be to continue to build that up at additional campuses. There are staff members that are already on the rosters at Ashland and Merrimack that are focused on community and family support, and they have a lot on their plate, and so the idea would be to just support that and see if we could make the roles even more successful through grant funding. Again, that's the hope, and it would only be to supplement and complement the work that's already happening at those schools. So.
One more question.
Board Member Jones.
Sorry. Good evening. Surprise, surprise, surprise.
I know. It's good to see you, Miss.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's been a long time. I'm still thinking about before the elected board came back when I was here, and I watched the special administrative board, which was run by President Reed, Board of Aldermen, the mayor, and the governor had a pickup up here. And they allocated all that money for the CPN. And I was really confused. I was thinking, why did they do that? Why? What happened? And as we started to investigate, many of you are familiar with Susan Turk. Susan Turk. She told me that she did her own private investigation, and people were very upset when she started to ask questions about where the money was, who was at the top, and what have you. And I'm trying to understand now, it's taken, you know how I feel about it already.
Yes,
I'm ready.
Yes,
we can just shut that door. Because, I mean, there's so much deception from the very start. There's been deception with this whole thing about the money. And now you get $35 million and you have a board member that used to be on whatever. But I'm really hoping that all these things that you said about empowering teachers, equitable outcomes, excellent schools, community schools, SLPS was doing that quite successfully. And it was only politics that killed it. And so I'm hoping that we will incorporate that. We have a new leader, and she has a wonderful staff. And I'm really hoping, and if any of your folks from the CPN need a job, I'm sure that there's one in SLPS somewhere, and they can use you very well. But I'm really hoping that we'll shut this chapter down, because CPN has not been very productive toward the students who are there at Laclede and Merrimack. And I'm totally not for it at all. Thank you.
Understood. Thank you.
President Cousins, I have a question for you. If you're on the board of the CPN, and it's the CPN board's job to make the MOU, and you're also the president of the board of education, and you can put items on the agenda, why are you asking Jay? Do you need to talk to yourself? I'm sorry, but this doesn't make sense.
Oh, you're correct. And I did. You see how this came on this agenda. I think what you're missing, Board Member Hubbard, is when Board Member Wise asked for this to be put on the agenda, it was put on the agenda. I think the part that you're missing is Jay asked for this as well as all the policies and procedures, he went behind to board member, to other staff members and asked for board member Wise to have this put on and not communicated. You know, we have board norms. You know that? Remember we spoke on the board norms? And we have board norms. So I don't think that question should be directed to me. I think you should direct that question to board member Wise because she's on the CPN. She was the one who brought this before the board, and she asked for the CPN to be brought before the board, and as the president of the board, that's what I did. So your question should be directed to her, not to me.
I would just like to say that no one told me to put this on the agenda. I asked for the presentation because I thought it would be we could have a productive discussion as a board about the CPN. We haven't talked about it for a long time, or I'm very new, so I haven't been
you're new.
here when we talked about it, but no one told me to.
Okay, so I don't normally do this, and I try to maintain professional decorum, so let me help you. An email was sent by Jay Hartman, and it said, per board member Sadie Wise, these are the things that need to be added to the consent to the agenda. The policy and procedure of the CPN, the MOU, and the this whatever presentation. That's what was sent to the chief of schools as well as her secretary. So you asked, if I'm not mistaken, at the last board meeting for the CPN to be brought before this board meeting, correct? And that's exactly what was done. So as I've stated, per the governance, this is what I did. So the board norms was, had you copied me and Dr. Scarlett, then we would have known how to proceed, but that wasn't done. So I'm sorry.
I can chime in here too.
Yeah,
I can
I'm
just
sure you
explain.
can. Go ahead. Go ahead and explain, Jay.
I,
Share that with us.
Are you sure? Okay. I don't need to. I'm not trying to be. Okay. So I sent the draft of this presentation a week ago to the whole CPN board, including you as a member of the CPN board, and asked for feedback. And one of the pieces of feedback was, if the policies and procedures handbook is being referred to in the presentation, let's make sure that that is also shared. And so that's all I did. That was the feedback that I got from board member Weiss, and so I just responded accordingly to make sure that that was included. So it wasn't, I wasn't trying to.
All of your attachments said this is what board member Sadie Weiss wanted. I'm just letting you know.
I can share.
That's
share
fine,
the full.
but I'm just letting you know. So when board member Hubbard asks, that me being the president of the board and me being on the CPN, I just wanted to make sure you guys understood that because those are the board norms, okay? Now, is there any other questions that you all have in regards to the CPN? Because clearly we're not voting on it because we don't have the MOU to vote on. Is there any other questions you have regarding the CPN?
Can we put the MOU on the December agenda, please?
By all means you can. Is there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Consent agenda. Is there any questions for the consent agenda, for the November consent agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the November consent agenda 11/14/2301 to 11/14/2319.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussions? Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes?
Yes.
Ms. Wise?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Abstain.
Ms. Jones,
Yes.
Mr. Davis,
Yes.
Ms. Cousins.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Board members report.
I'd just like to say over the last 2 weeks, I've been able to accompany Dr. Scarlett and her team for some school visits. I know other members have. I was able to go to Jefferson and to Peabody, and just couldn't thank you enough for having that opportunity. I've been to schools before. I've never been at that level of sort of interaction and the explanation from you and Dr. Bourget and Dr. Crapo and Chief Alonsi and the principals and the staff. It was really very fulfilling and motivating me to know why we're here and what we're supposed to be doing. Those are just two beautiful schools with beautiful children, beautiful teachers, and I just loved it, so thank you.
Any other board member reports?
I went to the Network for Public Education conference in Washington, D.C. As part of the board development, and I went to a couple different panels that were really helpful and insightful about how school districts can partner with organizations. Parents for Public Schools is one of them. They were started in one of my hometowns, Jackson, Mississippi, but really be able to build and have it be independent from the district, but have the groups that support public education, and we'll be working to build and train future board members, which I think is really important. Another session that I went to was about Denver, and it was called Deportfolioing a District. And it was really, Denver is a little bit ahead of us in terms of privatization. They were able to elect public school supporting board members, but then there was perhaps not enough training, and there has been some dissension, things that were not, a good public look. And I'm pretty sure that the mayor of Denver is a privatization supporter, and so he was endorsing candidates, and in their latest school board election, I don't think the pro-public school candidates won. When I went to the panel, it was before election day, so they weren't sure what was happening, but they were very nervous. And we are very vulnerable right now in terms of how we're presenting ourselves, and all those things. And I want to make sure that we are preparing for what's to come, what's going to happen with those $34 million that they shouldn't have, how we can protect the district, but most importantly, benefit our children. The institution can't save us or love us, but we can be for our children in the city. And so I just want to encourage anyone out there who loves public education and wants to support our children to consider running for the Board of Education. Next election is April 2024. So that's all. Thank you. I'm so glad that y'all voted for me to go.
Any other board reports? Board Member Jones, I'm sorry, Secretary Jones.
Yes, I wanted to briefly talk about my journey to the Missouri School Board Association's conference that I recently attended. And it was very eye-opening, some of the sessions that I attended. And one in particular was a focus. There was a focus where one of the vendors received, I think, over $400,000 to present a workshop on poverty. And I found it very interesting that when I talked to her, that she talked about how many of the school board members across the state had never run into poverty, and they didn't understand what it meant. and we had various scenarios with women of color, families of color, maybe a mom with no dad, and a daughter pregnant, and all kind of little negative things going on there. And I came away from it feeling like, you know what, with open enrollment, with the Jefferson City working on open enrollment and trying to destroy smaller school districts, it is imperative that we organize ourselves now and make sure that we get to Jefferson City. It's one thing to run for the school board, but it's another thing to get up there and make sure we are in the ear of those legislators who are making those laws and those decisions, because they really think that they have got it made in the shade and that they're going to get away with destroying so many people's lives. There are going to be a lot of districts that are going to be swallowed up by open enrollment. So that's something that I really wanted to make a point of. And I noticed as well that there are so few districts of color in the state of Missouri, and you really don't have a voice up there. So it's imperative that we encourage our students, our parents to join the PTO, to get out here and to organize yourself in the community, because like Emily said, the voting is coming up, but you can only make a change if you get involved. Sometimes it's not sitting in this chair. I've sat in this chair, and it doesn't matter to me whatever your title might be. It's who you are as an individual. You can make calls as a regular Joe or Mary Jane, just like myself, and say, hey, I'm looking, I'm interested, I care about what's going on with my neighborhood, with my schools, and make a difference in many people's lives. And so that's what I came out of when I went to Missouri School Board Association. So it's just important for us to lift our voice right now because the heat is on. Thank you.
Any other board reports? I too had the opportunity to go to several conferences. We were in San Diego where Vice President Davis and myself actually had to do a panel discussion in regards to crisis, how to operate during a crisis situation. That was eye-opening as well, giving a voice to talk on what board members do in the level of crisis. Most of the time, people never thought or looked at the positions that board members actually have when we are dealing or faced with crisis situations. So we were able to give our perspective as to how we were able to operate when we were dealing with crisis, and it really put things in a different light. It helped me. He hates doing it. I hate speaking for him, but he actually hated to do it. But I think it kind of brought a level of ease and a better understanding for us, as well as for other board members, to better prepare them for situations that may come. The other conference I was able to go to, as Donna Jones spoke, Secretary Jones was speaking on as well, was MSBA. That conference was eye-opening as well, because we had other board members from other areas that were really understanding the challenges that everybody is facing. They are coming after all levels of public education. It doesn't matter if it's the city schools, the county schools, the rural schools, the Jewish schools, the charter schools. They're coming after all schools that are trying to do better for the education. And if we continue to work in silos, they're going to destroy public schools as a whole. We have to wake up and understand that. Something that we've been really working on trying to do as a board is be better informed when we're working with our community organizations. The other opportunity that I've had, and we've been really working to try to do, is go to our community meetings, inform the community of what's going on with their taxpayer dollars. We're letting them know a lot of what we're doing when it comes to the citywide plan. A lot of times, and for years, the big question that we've asked is, have you ever actually had a school board member come to a community meeting and let you know what our actual role is? Instead of people telling our story, we're trying to make sure the story is being told by us. We're letting them know what their taxpayer dollars is actually being put to use for. We've had the opportunity, as busy as she is, for Superintendent Scarlett to actually go to these community meetings and talk to the people and let them know. a lot of positive things are really happening within St. Louis Public Schools, and that's what we're trying to really get the message out. What you've seen tonight is what we're trying to let people know. Verizon Lab is huge, in my opinion. What we're doing is trying to let people know the way our students learn is different now. We do not learn, our students do not learn the way we used to learn, and we're seeing that every day. What I love about the purpose that Verizon Lab has been brought into this space is they're teaching our teachers how to now teach this new way of teaching. What they're doing in their professional development is they're preparing our teachers how to teach our kids on a virtual level, on a digital level, not just sitting down and saying, open up a book. That's not the be-all to learning anymore. So I encourage you all, yes, you see us sitting here, as Secretary Jones say, on these days in board meetings, but trust me, this is just the beginning of what we do on a day-to-day basis, serving as board members for St. Louis Public School. Are there any other board reports? With that being said, we're going to move into public comments. First up, we have Mr. Monroe. You have 3 minutes, sir.
Without knowing too many things about the CPN, this gentleman spoke. I'm hearing that there was in this award of millions of dollars that somebody lied. Somebody told a lie. And there needs to be an investigation, and you're not being held to it. Each one of you board members are in receipt of a complaint from me. On the last meeting, those of you that know me, I come into this place an hour ahead so I can sign up to speak. Ms. Cousins, Mr. Davis saw fit to deny me this podium on the last meeting. And that's why you have a complaint in front of you about being mistreated. And if you're a black educator, if you're a black education entrepreneur, what have you, you don't get the chance to bypass routine like this white gentleman here from CPN has been up here more than one time. When Bill Monroe has asked on numerous occasions for more than a decade to be able to speak to this board and bring community solutions to you, and you don't listen to black men and women. This complaint to the Board of Education is addressed to each one of you, and is going to DESE, to the civil rights organization for how you saw fit to deny me this podium. And in my hand at that time, I had a proposal, and many of you know that Bill Monroe and Harriet Tubman has been seeking to take charge of at least two of these public school buildings to do something for our community. In the black community, there are rotten buildings crumbling. And Bill Monroe has asked for more than one to be able to start a situation for our children who are homeless. And we got buildings where we can house and teach our children, and there are millions of dollars. Mr. Davis, you're jiving around and playing with this money and hoping nothing comes to black people and this money will go back to the government. That's what you are doing. I hope that you read this thoroughly, and I want this complaint to be answered. I want to sit down with this board. I want to know how many public school buildings can you provide a brother like me, a man that's heck, I did bring about one of the first black charter schools in this town. Thurgood Marshall was my school. Yet Ms. Cousins spoke to me at a meeting and said, what makes me think that I'm qualified to sit at the citywide planning? And I'm telling you that a man who's already put together a school, and you deny us a position at that school. I want an answer here.
Thank you, Ms. Monroe.
And maybe the governor will give it to us, Maybe the Attorney General will give it to us, but I
Ms.
want an
Irma
answer here.
McNeil.
And this community deserves an answer. Thank you.
Ms. Irma McNeil. Thank you, Mr. Monroe.
You don't mean it.
Okay.
If anybody want a copy of this, you're welcome to it.
I have handouts for the board.
You can give it to Ms. Henry, Ms. McNeil.
Okay.
I'm sorry, you can give it to
Oh.
Mr. Davis.
Thank you. So good evening. I'm doing an update on the COLA and the St. Louis pension by Irma Nevels McNeil, Missouri Retired Teachers, Region 14. November 13, I wrote this. On Sunday, you did your Sunday school lesson that says Nehemiah 2:17. It says, now I say to them, you know very well what trouble we are in. Jerusalem lies in ruins, and its gates have been destroyed by fire. Let us rebuild the wall of Jerusalem and end this disgrace. This is Nehemiah said this in the year of 445 BC. Now Irma is saying this in 2023 AD. You know very well what trouble we are in. St. Louis public school system and this pension fund lie in ruins. Neighborhood schools have been closed. Charter schools are taking the place of public schools, and the public school retirement system in the city of St. Louis is heading into 401ks. Now, the first point, the letter written to Governor Michael Parson by the Missouri Retired Teachers Association asking for a 13th check for from the large budget increase that was in 2022, it failed. And then here was something else. The joint letter written to the school board president Matt Davis and the public school retirement system chairman Louis Krause by Local 420 St. Louis, asking them to jointly consider a stipend of $1,000. It failed in 2022. Now here's the third thing. The 3 legislative bills written asking for a one-time supplemental check of $2,000, House Bill number 1831 by Representative Alan Gray and House Bill number 2352 by Representative Marlon Anderson and Senator Angela Mosley, it failed in 2022. Now I'm saying this, let us get an emergency stipend from our pension board with the support of the school board and end this disgrace. Irma says this to the retired school employees of the city of St. Louis. I'm saying this to you in 2023. Let's end this disgrace. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Irma. Eugenia Davis.
Good evening, Dr. Scarlett and panel of board members. I have been very disturbed at the fact that never can you get a response. Why is it that we can never get a response? I have sent emails, I have made phone calls, I have a lot of concerns about the conditions at Sumner High School. And responses just never come back. What is the protocol for a response? What is the protocol? People stand here meeting after meeting after meeting, and it just looks like nobody ever says anything back to anybody. Why is that? See what I mean? Why is that? Nobody can say why you cannot get a response from the Board of Education and St. Louis Public Schools. Why?
Ma'am, I'm sorry. If you look at the bottom of our agenda, We hear your comments or your complaints or what have you, and if you have a question or something, we write a response to you. At our board meetings, we don't provide you comments or response. If you send an email, we will respond. I don't see an email I've ever received from you.
So I have to send it directly to you because I sent my email to Dr. Scarlett and to Squire Watson.
If you have a comment or a question that you have directed to the board, yes, ma'am, you can send it to me.
Okay, so I'll do that,
Yes,
and then
ma'am.
I'll await that response.
And you'll get it.
Okay.
There you go.
Oh, one more thing.
Uh-huh.
Why is it we have to sit out in the cold and wait? What's going to happen in December when we come down here to this board meeting and we have to sit outside in the cold?
I'll respond to that in the email.
Okay.
Okay. Mr. Roderick Grisidek. Sorry.
Madam President, members of the board, my name is Robert Grisidek. I am with Grisidek Brothers Bray. Our building is in the Bay neighborhood. We're in North St. Louis. We've been up there for 9 years. The brewing industry is not exactly a diverse industry. It is predominantly white men, and it is an industry that needs to change. We need more women, and we need more people of color. One of the eye-opening events that we had was a hill climb back on February 28th, in which myself and members of the industry, we went to the Capitol, and there were representatives from Central Visual and Performing Arts High School who were there at the school last October. We all know what happened at the school on October 24th last year. It didn't matter what side of the aisle members of the assembly were on, they all stopped their business. They recognized the students, and they gave them their respects. The industry needs more diversity. We need more members of our student body to go through all the way through high school and graduate from college to be in this industry. It's not an industry about consumption, it's about community. My father, who is now 72, has asked the next person we hire, what would they be? And I said they need to be a quality analyst. We need them to be able to use gauges and density meters, hemocytometers, and in fact, the young lady who was spoken about earlier this evening, already dissecting a frog in 8th grade, she's on the right track. In order to do that, though, from a business perspective, we do need higher performance. Our local schools are Nance, going into Yateman, and then they feed into Vashon, go Wolverines. But I cannot justify trying to get college graduates into this industry when it's a 53% graduation rate, when Yateman is at 1% math and 8% reading proficiency. And if I were to go further back, I would see Nance is in the bottom 3. And I know the board knows these statistics, but my request to the board and perhaps to Dr. Scarlett is that we look at the long game. Where do we want the kids to be in 20 years, and what's the plan? Because we want them to not only go through the system, we want them to stay in St. Louis when they graduate rather than going to the coasts. So please look at the long game. I know you have your budget, I know you have your time. Please consider where we want the kids to be in 20 years because we want to hire them and keep them in the city. Thank you.
I need a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Ms. Henry?
Mr. Hikes? Yes. Ms. Weiss?
Yes.
Ms. Hubbard?
Yes.
Ms. Fowl?
Yes.
Ms. Jones?
Yes.
Mr. Davis?
Yes.
Ms. Cousins?
Yes.
We are adjourned.